In the farthest reaches of Botswana's Okavango Delta, where the marshlands stretch into endless golden floodplains, there lived a solitary lioness known by rangers as Mamariri, Mother of the Mist. She was a shadow in the morning fog, her tawny coat streaked with scars, her eyes as ancient as the land. For 2 years, she had survived alone after her pride was overthrown by a coalition of young males. All but one of her cubs were killed. The last, a male barely 4 months old, was all she had left. She hunted for 2 now, moving at night, using the reeds and silence as weapons. Where other lions ruled through strength in numbers, Mamariri had learned to become a ghost. But even ghosts have bodies. And bodies can bleed. It happened at the height of the dry season. The floodwaters had receded, and prey had grown desperate. Kudu and impala moved in thin, exhausted herds. The lioness, thinner than usual, ventured farther east with her cub, into dangerous ground, near human-cut paths and abandoned traplines. She followed the spoor of a warthog at dusk, crouching low. Her cub trailed behind, mimicking her every move. But between the roots of a fever tree, something waited, a crude wire snare, rusted and nearly invisible in the dying light. The cub stepped into it. A strangled yelp cut through the silence. The wire tightened around his leg instantly. He flipped over, panicked. The lioness spun, ears flat, and charged the unseen enemy. But it wasn't a rival lion, it was cold steel. She snarled and pawed at it, her teeth finding nothing but wire and bark. Her cub writhed, whimpering. She could have fled. But she didn't. She lay beside him as the sky turned black. The poachers never came, perhaps driven off by patrols or the simple fear of being caught. But the snare held. The cub's breathing grew shallower. The lioness stayed, licking his head, keeping hyenas at bay with deep, guttural growls that trembled with exhaustion. That night, nearly 20 kilometers away, Ranger Kelebogile Dubé, Kele, to her team, was walking her usual route on foot near the Mababi Depression. She had been with the anti-poaching unit for 6 years, earning respect for her intuition and calm under pressure. Raised in a village on the delta's edge, she had known these animals her whole life. But Mamariri was different. She had tracked the lioness for months, leaving camera traps in the misty marshes and noting every appearance. When she saw the vultures circling loosely at dawn, Kele knew it wasn't a kill. It was indecision. Something beneath them wasn't dead, yet. She and her patrol partner, Hafo, pushed through papyrus thickets and over cracked flood channels for hours, following the uneasy rhythm of the air. Then, they heard it, a broken, rhythmic growl, rising and falling like a heartbeat too slow. When they found the lioness, both rangers stopped dead in their tracks. Mamariri stood over her cub, who now lay limp and barely conscious. Blood soaked the reeds beneath him. The wire had dug deep into the muscle of his hind leg. Her ribs were visible. Her flanks heaved. But she didn't run. She locked eyes with Kele, defiant, unflinching. "She's not attacking," Mpo whispered. "She's asking for help," Kele said. Kele dropped to one knee, speaking softly in Setswana, her tone steady as a drumbeat. "Re-go Thusa. We're here to help." She removed her tranquilizer gun, adjusted the dosage with trembling fingers, and took aim. The dart hissed. Mamariri flinched but did not move. Her gaze remained fixed on her cub until her legs finally buckled. Kele ran forward, kneeling beside the cub. The snare was embedded deep. It took 10 agonizing minutes and bolt cutters to free him. The wound was bad. Infection had set in. His leg twitched when she touched it. "He's septic," she muttered. "We don't have much time." The mobile vet team was still 2 hours out. Kele didn't wait. She cleaned the wound as best she could, flushing it with sterile solution. She wrapped the leg in gauze soaked in antibiotic cream, whispering softly as she worked. The cub whimpered but did not bite. When the team finally arrived, led by wildlife vet Dr. Chipo Lebiru, there was no time for lengthy decisions. The cub needed surgery. Kayleigh insisted, "Take the mother too. She'll never stop looking for him." They loaded both lions onto the bush plane bound for the wildlife rehabilitation island. As the aircraft lifted off, Kayleigh remained on the ground, watching the delta grow quiet again. For 6 weeks, Mamariri and her cub, now named Chiamo, Blessing, lived in adjoining enclosures surrounded by trees and reeds. The cub underwent daily treatments. He lost weight, then gained it back. He began to walk again, limping but stronger with each sunrise. At first, Mamariri paced constantly. But when the gates were opened one morning and she saw Chiamo limp toward her, she rushed forward and wrapped her body around his. She licked his face, then lay her head on his shoulder. She didn't move for hours. Kayleigh visited them twice a week. She wasn't supposed to grow attached, but rules meant little when you'd looked into the eyes of a dying lioness and found not fear, but trust. She sat outside the enclosure for hours, reading reports, watching them. One evening, Mamariri approached the fence and stopped a few feet from Kayleigh. They stared at one another in silence. Kayleigh didn't speak. She didn't move. She simply bowed her head, an unspoken promise. They were released 3 days later, back into the protected heart of the delta. The transport gates opened at dawn. For a moment, Mamariri stood still, testing the air. Then, with Chiamo beside her, she stepped into the grass. They disappeared like fog lifting. Weeks passed. Then, one early morning, Kayleigh's motion-triggered camera captured a familiar scene, a lioness moving through the mist, her cub now nearly grown, his gait steady. They passed the camera without pausing, but the lioness turned her head briefly, as if sensing something just beyond the lens. That same week, during an elephant count flight, Kayleigh spotted 2 distant figures atop a ridge near the Zudum River. She knew it was them. "She's watching us now," Kayleigh said later to Mfo. "Not hiding. Watching." "Think she remembers you?" he asked. Kayleigh only smiled. "In the delta," she said, "the land remembers. And so do the lions." And so the story spread, of a lioness who refused to abandon her cub, of a ranger who refused to abandon them both, and of a new legend rising each morning with the mist. In the silence of the early dawn, when reeds whisper and light shimmers over the water, the last roar of Mamariri still echoes, not of fear, but of survival. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next episodes.